Hi there, this is David,
And I'm Mark.
and we are coming at you with the second episode of Destination Arete. Hopefully you found us through Facebook, or maybe YouTube, or iTunes, or SoundCloud, or maybe Twitter. If you didn't, you can always look us up, Destination Arete, A-R-E-T-E, or D-E-S-T-A-R-E-T-E on Twitter. And as always, we are happy to have you with us. And we are happy to have a second episode. You are listening to this in December, so Christmas is fast approaching. And what are you looking forward to the most about Christmas break, Mark?
I'd say just being back in Kansas City, because Kansas City is one of my all-time favorite place. So I love the atmosphere of the city at Christmas time. Union Station, the whole city's decked out with plaza lights. So I enjoy just riding around the city and listening to Christmas music in the car and looking at Christmas lights and the crazy things people do in their front yards with an exorbitant amount of money that they don't have because they live in a very middle-class home. So it just must be something they do. But yeah, I really enjoy just Kansas City at Christmas time.
Yes. The tradition in our family, bear with me, I have a cold this week, but the tradition in our family is to make a batch of cookies and go to Quick Trip for hot chocolate and then drive around and look at Christmas lights. There is a house probably 2 miles away from us that gives Chevy Chase a run for his money every year. And it's a good little trip around the city. Usually it's pretty cold. You heat the van up. You put in the mixtape that Dad burned onto a CD for Mom, and just enjoy Christmas music and Christmas lights and family. So I would agree with you there, Mark. I'm looking forward to that too. I will get to be home for Christmas in Kansas City with my wife this year, so it'll be a good time. But let's just jump right into our first segment. We're going to talk about a movie that's been out now for about 2 weeks. Mark and I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but it is the Pixar film called Coco. Just a quick synopsis of the film for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. Coco is about a young boy who is of Hispanic descent. I believe it's set in Mexico or a Latin American country. And it is about the holiday known as the Day of the Dead, which is the day that this culture believes that their ancestors come back to speak to them, and it's very much a part of the religion and the worship. Ancestors are worshipped a lot. So it's very heavy in Hispanic culture and Hispanic practices, I guess you could say. So much so that Disney wanted to call it Dios de la Muertos. I believe I'm saying that right. And they actually wanted to trademark that. And the Hispanic community said, no, that is the name of our holiday. You cannot make money off of our national holiday by copywriting it and trademarking it so that no one else can use it. And so Disney backed down a little bit. And I believe this is Pixar created and Disney distributed. Is that right?
Yeah, that's how most of their films have been produced. Pixar is the studio that produces it, and then Disney handles all the distribution, toy making, publicity, I guess you could say. So, and ever since Disney bought Pixar, they've been more under Disney's control, I guess you could say. But I would say that's an accurate description. Pixar makes the film, and then Disney distributes it. So,
okay. Well, I just wanted to point that out. A little bit of a controversy with Disney wanting to basically trademark the name of the holiday. Mm-hmm. I guess there's 2 official names for the holiday, and Disney wanted one of them to be the name of the film. And they backed down and they called it Coco, which is, I believe, the name of the main character. So, but I'm interested just to see how well this film is received. I know there is a big Hispanic population in the United States, and obviously being close to Central America, Latin America, and I'll just be interested to see if the numbers for this one are as big. I would think with such a focused story about a specific holiday from a certain culture that it would tend to be maybe less well received. But then again, it's Pixar and they make good films, so I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I've done some reading on it, and I think that it'll surprise us. I think it really will. I have kind of mixed opinions about it from what I've been reading and things, just background information. But I think that the skeptics will be surprised, and maybe those that were expecting it to be the next big thing will be have their expectations met, but maybe not exceeded. I think would be what my take on is it from what I've read.
Okay, all right. I've read that a couple critics were saying this is kind of more middle of the road for Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
But
middle of the road for Pixar is pretty amazing. So
right, I mean, not every movie's going to be The Good Dinosaur,
Yeah.
as far as, wow, why did we make that? But they're also not going to be Inside Out, which was one of the better films that Pixar has done, behind Toy Story 2. So I wanted to say one thing before we move on from Coco. I'm looking forward to seeing it in theaters. I'm definitely going to go either during Christmas with my family or with my wife before that time. Maybe I'll do both. Who knows? But Robert Abel, which is a film critic, said if this film gives parents an opportunity to start conversations with their children about death and what's beyond that, then this film is a good... He thinks that's what this film is mostly good for, which brings up an interesting point, Mark, which I kind of want to get your take on. I personally think that's what media does. Media necessarily shouldn't be required to have a specific message that it convinces you of, but instead sparks your interest or causes you to start a conversation or research or investigate for yourself more about a certain subject. In this case, it would be death and the afterlife. And it's interesting that we can take media and package things like death and the afterlife for children and start conversations that way.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's one of the great things that Walt Disney did over the course of his lifetime. Walt Disney packaged very heavy truths and played them for audiences that were of all ages. And so, subjects like love interests or death or loss of a loved one, growing up without a father, those kind of things. He did a great job, and his crew did, of creating stories that could, like you said, package those things and bring them to all audiences. And I think that one of the things you do have to ask yourself is, what is the purpose of this film in the creator's eyes? Because that will give you real insight into, was the film successful in his mind or not? Because in reality, a creative is trying to create things that mean something to themselves. And so if they are able to communicate that to others, that is at least one form of success in my mind, in terms of, did they communicate what they were setting out to communicate?
Yeah. Well, and like you said, Disney's, think about just animated films, Bambi. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You deal with the loss of a parent, and the fact that loss like that happens in nature. Mm-hmm. The fire, the hunters, that sort of thing. Or you think about maybe another less serious film, but like The Fox and the Hound.
Yes.
Where you deal with being friends despite differences. That's a great way to start a conversation with a kid. The fox and the hound were able to be friends, and they were able to respect one another even when they were older and their goals were different. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, that's a great segue, I think, into our next segment. But for that, you're going to have to, for those watching on YouTube, you're going to have to go to SoundCloud or iTunes. So click the links below, or follow us on Twitter, DESTARETE. And so we are grateful if you turn in for another week, and hope you will listen to the rest of the podcast, despite not being able to see my awesome face. Hopefully we'll get Mark in one of these videos here eventually, here come the holiday season. So once again, thanks for listening, and we'll be right back.